Hi, welcome back. I am going to take you through the first half of my 2-page guide to activate your feminine energy, your feminine fire, your feminine flow, which is all about the creativity, the deliciousness of life, because the masculine has that providing, protective, and then the feminine is the supporting, nurturing, and enhancing element of life. So if we lean in too hard both ways, we can end up in a bit of a strife. So balancing them is really key. And this particular video will go through the 4 first foundational things that I do to tap into my feminine again, especially if I, in the past, have numbed out. This has really helped. If I've sort of felt like I had lost myself as well because I was trying to follow all the rules, all the guidelines, all the masculine structural ways of being successful. And then I lost that intuitive, creative spark that really brought life so much more joy and pleasure. So this is what this video will go through. It will take you through these 4 elements, these 4 foundations. And then I'll make another video for you guys to go and address your masculine as well for more, so then your feminine can rise even more, okay? And that's the second half of the guide. Why this is so important, as I already mentioned, I love to take notes for these. It's to understand your feminine embodiment. So how do we even come back to our bodies? A lot of the times people will say masculine is in the head and feminine is in the body. So how do we do that? Cognitively, to understand how to do it, you're like, okay, but you've got to actually practice it, to feel it, to be it, to experience it, okay? Now, the reason that I love this is because it literally amplifies your creativity, it ignites your passion again, it makes me personally have incredible orgasms, and sorry, Dad, if you're watching this. And just the power you feel within, the power you feel inside again, because you've switched that switch on, you've switched that flame back on. You're not looking for validation from the outside world either, because you trust this in here more and more. I'm really passionate about helping mums as well, because I can see that it's such a common thing for us to overgive and forget ourselves, and then we kind of end up in this flat state of where's my energy gone? Where's my life force energy? And so that's what this will help with as well. Now, as I said, I use this for my own journey of coming out of burnout. I was a creative, I was a photographer for many years and lost all that zestiness. And there was also some heartbreak of losses and grief, and it all kind of piled on together. So this really helped me get out of that. And also more recently helped me get out of a 3-month period where I was freshly pregnant and I just felt really zapped for those hormonal changes. And then there was also some doubt I had through some experiences that happened, and I didn't address them, I didn't look. And then finally when I was like, okay, it's time. And that's what I need you to have. You need to have the little tiny spark inside to go, there must be another way. There must be an easier way, and for you to willingly and courageously try these things, because you've got to taste and feel them, like I said. So what's the first one? First one is to notice your senses. Now there's a few things and ways you can do this, okay? So noticing our senses. Now emotions in our bodies, they live in our bodies, and they're literally just sensations in our bodies. So your heart might start racing when you get excited. You might start even getting a little bit sweaty palms when you're a bit nervous. When you feel more relaxed and content with life, your heartbeat's nice and slow and you're feeling grounded and a bit heavier, but nice way. It's all just sensations in the body. Or even anger, you get tense, you get tight, you get hot. Anger is also healthy, I'm just not going to divert too far, but so healthy. Because under anger, if someone's expressing that, there was hurt there. And it's good to know it's good to then release it, let it go, so you can actually feel the deeper stuff and go, oh, okay. Which happened to me recently. I was like in my head about something and it made me more and more angry. And I would just play it over and over again, the scenario. And then finally I went, stop. And I was like, what am I making this mean? All the details and the proofs and the things that were happening. I was like, stop. And suddenly my body was like, oh, you're just angry and trying to project the anger out because you don't want to feel what's in here, which is the hurt. And then I suddenly just cried and I felt much better afterwards. So really, yeah, sometimes it's a protective mechanism that our body does to avoid the deeper, darker stuff. And if we can approach that stuff with more curiosity, awesome. That's the key. Curiosity and compassion, and like, okay, it's fine to cry. It's fine to be weak for a little bit. It actually takes courage, so it's not weak. You're feeling it. Now, one of my favorite exercises I'm going to give you to make this really practical as well is to pop a song on, feel your sensations, make it a like nice and groovy song, touch yourself, like notice like some tickles, give yourself a little self-massage, even closing your eyes and just noticing like how your clothes feel on you, all those sorts of details. What can you hear? And you can do this at any moment. What I like to do is actually journal it and write it out as well. Because once you're there with your pen and paper, you go, okay. And then you get really present and you go, what can I hear? What can I see? Well, how do I feel? What can I feel on my body, skin? And write those things out. And then an extra little bonus to like cultivate and create the life that you want and that you're calling in, do it for like scenarios in the future as well, after you've done your current present. So really appreciate and feel the juice in that. And then you could do 3 of like something you're picturing, something you're imagining. I did this before we fell pregnant with my baby number 2. I would be like, I can feel my baby kicking me inside. And oh my God, he is active. He kicks so much that's definitely come true. Yeah, and then like even the holidays that we're planning on in the future, I would write like, I can see the snow outside, the smell of the fire indoors, Remy's playing and I can hear his giggling, you know, like those things. Like what are the pieces that you're picking up on in those future scenarios? But again, start with your present right now to get present in your body, and then you can kind of like cultivate this like beautiful, delicious thing you're looking forward to as well with those senses in mind. Number 2, speak from your body. So this is when you're talking to your partner. This works really well, especially if it's a masculine, feminine, heterosexual relationship. In any relationship, to have that polarity of attraction, there is also always someone that's a little more masculine and a little more feminine. At times, it doesn't have to be one or the other. But let's say in a heterosexual relationship, the males are normally the more masculine and then the females are the more feminine. But we have both energies inside of us. That's what I'm trying to make clear. So speaking from your body really helps the other person, the masculine, feel and understand your body, and they crave that. They want to know what's going on in this like being of yours. So if you say like, oh, that makes me feel really delicious, or like, it's also a good practice for yourself. Like when you're having a little drink, Alexis actually says this, or Alexis, she's great. You should check her out. She's also a feminine coach. But yeah, when you're having a drink, don't just be like, that's so yummy. Like, what is it making you feel in your body? You're making you feel alive? Is it making you feel like, oh, wow, I've suddenly got like all this bursting energy from inside? And express that, like speak it. Learn to say that and talk from your body and how it feels in your senses. And then same when like you're talking about other things from the relationship, like let them know what it feels like. Let them know what it's giving you, what it's providing you. Like if you, even the way, being less demanding of like things being done around the house, you could just say, man, I would love it. like would love to see it more clean in here, because then I would feel way more relaxed and be able to have more fun and like laugh and play more frequently. That would then make them go, oh, okay, well, if I can create that outcome for them, I'm going to help clean up, you know, instead of being like, can you like get your ass off and help me tidy the house? Being more demanding rather than being very desire based and like, what is it going to give me if they do help me out with this task? Okay. So number three, and there is a PDF, remember, you can download it if you haven't got it already in the link below to help you remember these. You can print it out. It's just 2 pages. We're going through the first page today, the 4 first foundational pieces. So number 3 is to invite your shadow to the table. This is such a goodie. The shadow side. Now, the shadow side is called the shadow side because it's normally the piece of ourselves, the parts of us that we avoid to look at. We don't really acknowledge them as a part of us. We want to like, no. I'm just going to look at this positive here. And I was so bad for this, especially being like, you know, I want to be the positive light. I want to have a good impact. And then I would just forget and then, you know, push everything else under the rug that I didn't want to see. And that's not healthy. That's how you also start to numb out, because if you're not feeling the icky, sticky, juicy stuff, you're also stopping yourself from really feeling those high highs of like, wow, exhilaration throughout into your entire body. Because again, it needs to have activated to be, it needs to feel safe to feel that expansion of both ends of the spectrum. So if you're blocking feeling the expansion of like one feeling, then you're not going to be able to feel the other fully. So invite your shadow to the table. And a lot of the times too, the reason it might not feel safe or we want to hide these things away is because they're not really accepted in society, or like as females, it's very common for us to have that good girl mask and to strive to be the good girl and to strive to like be the kind one and the nurturing one and the overgiving mum. It's like celebrated in some ways. And this is the mask that you got to release. This is like the piece where you can start to play with yourself in your own self-awareness. Because again, staying in that good side, the good girl side, it's going to lead you to being a people pleaser. It's going to lead you to stretch your own boundaries and overstep them and allowing other people to step over them because you're just like, oh no, but I have to be the good girl. And sadly, this comes up in one of the most brilliant books I've read recently, Queen's Code. Read it. I'll keep a link below as well. But she covers Alison Armstrong. I hope I'm not getting that name wrong. But she covers how our brains as females are literally wired to please and to like keep the peace because it makes us feel safer. Because in instinctual ways, like from the past, we are essentially physically the weaker gender. So then men could harm us, and that has happened. So then it's like a instinctual thing for us to go, okay, well, we just have to make sure that they're happy, so then we're safe and we can be happy. That's like a really deep thing in our brains. So it's important to just acknowledge that and understand why we have these tendencies to slip into that role. But also like growing up, you'll be like, oh, you're such a good girl. Like, you know, you kind of have that in your childhood as you grow up and you go, oh, okay, I'm like really good. And it makes you feel good for a bit. But then it's like, are you hiding things of yourself that you actually would truly want to express? And to give you, again, a real life example. So for myself, there was a part of me being in a long-term relationship since I was quite young. I was like a part of me just like felt really awkward when other men would show interest in me because I was like, oh no, I have a boyfriend. But there was times where I then changed my behavior to not come across as too flirty, too like friendly, because whenever I was very friendly to someone and just like having fun with them, being a bit more playful in my feminine, it would be read in a wrong light. So they would think I'm flirting with them, even though I was just having a bit of fun. And then I would always be like, oh shoot, okay, I didn't mean to come across that way. And so I kind of just really dulled that piece of me down. And it really struck me only recently, a few months back, that I did that. And I was like, wow, okay. So that's like a piece of my feminine fire that I'm really just like was suppressing, because I was afraid of the outcome of someone then thinking I was trying to, you know, get them more as a friend, or, you know, and then they would think that we could have chemistry. And then I was always like, whoa, hang on, whoa. Especially in like work scenarios, I felt this as well. I was always like, okay, be professional, like don't do too much of this playfulness. And it was, yeah, it's sad looking back at that. And the piece that made me uncover it the best, these are some questions you can ask yourself about your shadow side. And then there's also, I'm going to give you the practical questions you can ask yourself, and then there's some somatic practices you can do as well, which is so powerful. So the practical pieces you can question yourself with cognitively is like, what are some things that really bother me or even trigger me inside of other people, like that I see in other people? So maybe someone is very like arrogant, or maybe they're quite lazy, or maybe, like I was saying with the flirtatiousness, maybe you get annoyed when like a woman's too flirty, especially like towards your partner or something. You know, like something that really bothers you. Why does it bother you? And it is normally because we've rejected that, and it's not part of like the perfect person, good girl structure that we're trying to strive for as well. And if this other person is like flaunting it and just owning that piece of them, we go, whoa, excuse me. And we try to like shun them for it, make them bad for it. But really, it's a piece of us that we've hidden away and we're not willing to look at a lot of the time. So it's just a really good question to ask yourself. And then the next step from that, acknowledging it, is how can you let yourself be that a little bit more? Doesn't mean you have to go against your values. Like, don't all of a sudden be arrogant to everyone. But how can you, if you are really against arrogance, maybe you are a bit of a people pleaser at times. Maybe you do need to stand your ground in your boundaries a little stronger. And this can be with baby steps, like start to, if someone asks you to do something and you really don't want to do it, like stand up and just go, I'm sorry, I don't have the time to. I hope you can figure out another way, but I'm not the person to help you in this moment. And this was something that I had to learn as well a few years ago when there was a friendship that kind of fell apart. Weird scenario, there was a lot to it, but I'll just really shorten it down for you guys. So the friend wanted me to come over and hang out with her because she decided to move to a different city suddenly in like 2 weeks' time. I had a lot on my plate. I was already planning to do like my yoga studies and all this other stuff that I was really committed to and I really love doing. And I was working full time. So I just had to be honest with her. Look, I was like, we can hang out for a day. I mean, not a day, sorry, just like have breakfast on this Saturday, but I've got commitments throughout the day. So I would love to see you. Let's go have breakfast to send you off to your new adventure, you know. Would love to see you one last time. And then, yeah, it was interesting, the response, because I was told in the past that other people could see this person trying to manipulate me in a lot of ways, but I didn't see it for a long time. So I was just trying to be kind, trying to be friendly. And then this is when I was like, no, I'm holding this boundary because I really want to do these things. And I stood strong. I know it's such a simple thing, but doing that gives you so much courage and confidence because you stood by yourself. And so then, yeah, this friend got really mad and cut me out of her life pretty much because it wasn't good enough for her. She wanted to hang out a whole day before she left. And I was like, sorry, not here for it. So that kind of dissipated happily. But you know, there's just things, and this is the reason why we don't usually hold those boundaries, because we are afraid of what we might lose. And yeah, it hurt. Like I was like, we were longtime friends and I was like, damn, okay. But at the same time, I didn't want to be walked over in those ways anymore. I was like, no, I'm standing my ground. I know what I feel inside and what's true for me and what I need to do. And I stood up for that. Okay. Number 4, are you ready? Destruction. So this is one of the first things that has really, really shifted a lot for me, because I used to be very like, I was creative. I was a creative, in a creative career, photography. I had a lot of like collected props and things in my house. And destruction, the reason this is so interconnected with feminine energy is because feminine energy literally is the key piece of like creating life. That's why it's the life force energy, the fire inside, you know, that makes shizza amazing. And we literally create babies, like in our bodies, if we're physically speaking as well. So yeah, creating life, but then to have that new life come about, we also need to be, there's that also kind of that dark side again, the shadow side of destruction, like making room for the new. And this has like rung true in my life time and time again, whether I physically cleared spaces, destruction, changed my spaces around, whether I cleared my schedules without knowing what's to come, by the way. It's always a bit of a courageous step, because you're like, okay, I just know and feel that I need to create space. And the thing about tapping more into your intuition and your intuitive fire, I mean, your feminine, sorry, I gave away what I was going to say. Your feminine fire and your feminine body is you feel your intuition more. Some people feel it in different ways. There's all different sensations that I've heard. Like some people have it as this really strong gut-wrenching feeling of like yes, no. Some it's like a full body yes, the whole body needs to be lit up. Some, like myself, it's more of just like a drop-in of an idea, and then they're like, I have to listen to that. And it's usually very spontaneous and does not make sense at all. But the more you trust it, you're like, okay. And you move towards it. So there's different ways it can come through their intuition. So just knowing and understanding it in your own body is really key to this as well. But yeah, destruction, again, we're coming back to clearing space. So for me, it started physically with my space around me, because we're in such a consumer culture. It's so easy to collect. Okay. And I'm not perfect. Like it still happens to me. I have to consciously be like, all right, I'm just going to clear this out a little bit now. Let's clear some of this out, just to create that room to breathe again, like allowing your home to be a space where you can relax back and actually like have some empty spaces to look at and have some like breathing room to just like chill instead of having all this stuff everywhere all the time. So important. So physical stuff, one of the key things I'm going to give you to start that is to use a timer. That was one of the key things I learned. Put like a 20-minute timer on, choose a space and just declutter that, and then do that again another day in another space. Just those little bits help reduce it. And then you don't get overwhelmed by all the stuff you're like releasing emotionally too, because we can be so attached to physical things. And the other thing I want to say about this is also acting from your future self to do this. So one of the reasons I called my podcast Release to Revive is because I had this image when this was really potent for me of like holding on to things so tightly because of fear. And I wanted to control things, and I felt that deep scarcity of like, oh my God, but what if like there's nothing better than that? And I was really trying to hold on to it, whether it was my job, my relationship, my commitments that I had currently in my calendar, you know, like just things that I didn't feel like I could change or I wanted to change because they were good, but I had to let them go for there to be better, you know? And it doesn't always look like fully letting go and saying bye to a relationship, for example, because me and my partner are still together, but I just had to let go of that control and just be like, okay, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. let's just have fun with it, you know, and not trying to really be in charge of the outcome all the time, because that's a masculine thing. They have the goal, they have that direction, and it's like, boom, focused energy to make it happen, that outcome. Feminine is more intuitive, more spontaneous, more flowy, and you still get brilliant outcomes. Sometimes even better than you can imagine. One of the key teachers, is it Benjamin Hardy? He teaches on this so brilliantly. Like, he always says, like, there's like a lot of people will make choices from their past self and from their past stories, and it's like a logical pattern of like, okay, like this has happened, so we could make this. And sometimes that's a good way to look at things, but if you really want to leap into something completely new and like fully shift your life, you need to take that faithful risk and like do it from the future self. Like, where do you see yourself going? And then in Queen's Code, that book I mentioned earlier, a brilliant way she says this as well is that when we look at this future self, like, what do I actually want my life to look like in 6 months, feel like, be like? Like, what would that be like? And truly listen to the desires of like, what would be really cool to have, do, be, you know? Not like a choose from the menu is what the Queen's Code author says. Like, a lot of people will choose from the menu of what they think is available to them and what they think is possible, instead of actually listening to hear and being like, what lights me up? Like, what would be delicious? What would be so freaking incredible and at the moment unbelievable? That is where you need to move from. So then you look from that place, and you can use that journal. It all loops back together. You can use the journaling prompt I gave you in the first step to like make that more alive for yourself. What is it you need to do? Let go of, shake off, say bye to, release physically to get closer to that. And when I started my decluttering journey, that's like when I really started to picture what would I want it to look like, what would I want it to feel like, my spaces, my life. That's when it was so easy to make the moves, just to be like, nah, I'm not doing that anymore. No, I'm not going to go to that gym anymore. No, I'm not going to like overcompensate for those friendships anymore. Or even like, oh, I don't need that anymore. Like the physical, like clothing or whatever, it doesn't align. Like, I don't need it anymore. It makes it so much easier. So really dare to desire, dare to dream from there, from that place. And the beautiful thing, which I'll add one more thing that I wrote on my notes there, is that when you clear that space, and this has happened time and time again with my contract work as well, when I'm like, this isn't feeling right anymore, and I'm going to let this work go because it's not going to bring me to the future that I'm creating. And we're back. The battery went flat. Sorry, guys. And as well, sorry for my like, I don't know how much I'm sweating in my hair. And I keep like wiping my moustache that I can feel building up. It's hot in here, but I can't turn the fan on. You'll hear it. Okay. So just the last piece I wanted to add to that last step, number 4 of the first page of my Activate Your Feminine Fire guide, which you can download below if you don't already have it, then yes, is that it creates a vacuum. So the destruction piece of the feminine, the clearing out the space, again, time and time again, this happened with jobs that I had. I would like be like, okay, that doesn't align anymore. I'm going to tell them I'm going to stop next month. And I didn't have anything else lined up yet. Like, I was like, it'll come. And it does every time. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than I might have anticipated, but it's just trusting it and taking the steps towards the next piece. And from that future, from that desire, from that, not the menu that you think is possible, that you think is like available to you. No. What do you actually want from in here? Such a powerful question. Let yourself dream daringly. So that's it for that, guys. If you have any questions, please do comment below, send me an email. I'm always open with the DMs as well on Instagram at Jackie Gith. and share it with someone that you think would benefit from this. And again, there's a part 2 if you want to jump in and watch the Heal Your Masculine piece, which is the second half of the guide. There's also 4 foundational steps, because healing our masculine internally will also help you feel safer in your body to then feel those senses, be more intuitive, and help you structurally as well to like flow more freely. Okay. See you.